Hello, and welcome to the ASCM Vendor Webcast, the smartest warehouse cloud-based warehouse management, and a look at the future of logistics execution, sponsored by Oracle. Please note that this presentation is being recorded and will be available on the Oracle website, and you'll be emailed the location. Before we begin, I'd like to run through a few details. At the end of the presentation, we'll save time for a Q&A session. And if you look at the right toolbar on your screen, you'll see a questions box. To ask your question at any time during this presentation, simply type it in the box and click send. Should you experience any technical difficulties during today's broadcast, please call GoToWebinar Tech Support at 805-617-7000. Again, that's 805-617-7000. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today. Diego Pantoja-Navajas is the VP of Warehouse Management System WMS Cloud Development at Oracle and the former founder and CEO of Logfire, a provider of cloud-based warehouse management applications. He is also currently a contributor to Supply Chain Management Review and was nominated as the Supply Chain Pro to Know in 2014, 15, and 16. He's also an industry thought leader on the impact of advanced and emerging technologies on supply chains. Welcome, Diego.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here. So before I start, I'm going to do a safe harbor statement to outline that our general product direction of this presentation is to provide information about products, a product roadmap, and just to describe some of the Oracle's products and it's that we are putting in the market. And the statement of this safe harbor statement is that it's up to the user or to the attendee to take this information for their own decision in terms of acquiring or not our products. Okay, so when I was invited to present here, I was very excited, and it's really an honor to be here today. When I asked if I would like to talk about the future of the warehouse supply industry, I thought that was a great idea. There's something I should be able to talk, and I have a lot to discuss about this part. So I wanted to talk about about the different technologies that we have today in supply chain from different angles, correct? And it's very important to say that today we have a fairly large amount of technology in the market, and we're very interested to talk about the future of supply chain. And before we go to the future, it's important that we do a quick revision of the supply chain of the past. And the supply chain of the past, as you guys can see on this, is the supply chain were very linear, and basically there was a push-based supply chain. As we know, organizations built the products they thought consumers will buy. Products were pushed into the channels for sale to the end of the consumers. Customers typically only bought a given product through one channel via a store or salesperson, and that has changed significantly over the years. Today, the supply chain has significant challenges. The legacy supply chain processes and technologies have severely changed, and the customer also has changed, and the customer has changed, and the supply chains are now facing new challenges. We're expanding the demand and the fulfillment channels. Customers now have multiple ways to buy products. We have, as an example, direct sales, partner sales, e-commerce, aftermarket services, retail stores, kiosks, and others. Channels are supported by multiple systems and processes, which is also creating a visibility and service consistency challenge. And the fulfillment complexity is also increasing, correct? Organizations are leveraging multiple fulfillment models to reduce inventory costs. We're trying to shorter order lead times. We're trying to minimize loss of sales and revenues opportunities. We're trying to perform many more activities in terms of how we direct and ship products from the warehouse, how we're going to pick those products from stores, how we're going to be able to blend goods and services, and that's also creating a lot of pressures in our supply chain. Then, as you can see on the next box here, one of the other items is the time to market and the pressures that we have in terms of mass customization, correct? In many industries, product life cycles continue to shrink. More product introductions are happening. We need to get more products into the channels faster. Lifespans are shorter, less time to generate revenue and margins. There are more product options at the same time, and that's creating a lot of pressure also in the logistics and supply chain. The third component that I want to mention here before I move on is that this is creating also customer experience expectations, and the customer experience expectations continue to increase. The power of the supply chain has shifted to the consumer, to the end consumer, as we all know. Greater demand of products, order information is anywhere and anytime now. We know what's available. We know what's the cost of the products we want to buy. What are the delivery options, time, cost, locations, and at the end of the day, we're becoming a more driven customer that is pretty much translating to the business to business type of model. Okay, so a clear example this morning, I had the privilege to have breakfast with one large retailer here in Atlanta, and one of the major points that we were discussing is that the type of products that they have in their supply chain. In this case, this item has 145 different configurations, and their point was, look, most of the consumers only know one or two configurations of this item, but we're carrying all those different types of configurations in our supply chain. That's increasing our cost, and it's also reducing the margin in certain configurations of that product where we want to maintain a higher profitability of those products and generate more margin. So companies are starting to realize that these pressures and the mass customization of these items is allowing now to rethink how they're going to be able to reduce those different customizations, how they're going to be able to reduce the options that they give to the market so they can generate better margins for those products that are going to be the most the top items that th're going to be able to sell in the market. So it's very interesting that change in mentality. Before, we used to carry all those items. We used to say that, look, we're going to keep all these items in our warehouse, and if we are able to sell this product, great. But now, since we're moving into a demand-driven type of a supply chain, we want to make sure that we only produce and manage and fulfill those items that are necessary for that specific market and that specific industry without having to carry all those costs in our supply chain. So interesting is that as we're having, like I said, a couple of conversations with CEOs and others in the industry, most of them are looking to transform their companies and have a transformation by 2020, correct? But the other end of the equation is that 76% of the chief supply chain officers that are driving that digital transformation projects are saying that they're not ready to take those projects. That the company, the digital transformation projects, are not aligned with the reality and the underlying systems and their inability to to operate under the current platforms that they have. So they really need to move ahead with this digital transformation, but they need to find a different deployment model. They need to find ways that they're going to be able to be more effective, where these results are going to be able to be achieved, and that's why it's time for a new approach. So the globalization and technology, correct? Like we said, the supply chain needs to change and has changed, and now is centered in the user. We're seeing a demand-driven supply chain where we make and deliver only what we want and what our customers want. But if you think about the supply chains and the paradigms over the last 10 years, it's this type of volatility and at the end of the day, the type of increased technology that is available now is really allowing us to rethink how we're going to use the different supply chain channels. We are talking about concepts like supply chain networks that are going to allow us to make the whole supply chain more effective, and we're going to be able to utilize the different assets that we own in a way that before we were not able to use it because, like I said, we didn't have the underlying technology to be able to make that happen. Okay. So, customers and are thinking about, omni-channel processes, correct? And, or all the multiple ways of fulfilling products. And, the answer is not easy, correct? And if you see why multiple companies have started to diversify and move into a more of an omni-channel opportunity to drive revenue from the current position is really simple when you start going into the details, correct? More revenue will be driven as we are opening different channels for our products to be fulfilled. We are tracking new customers. We're also reducing customer churn, and we're allowing our customers to drive how they want their products to be delivered to them. So it's really I put some time of as an example, correct? Now that the supply chain is driven by the consumer, it's very simple. It's the same reason why we love to get our coffee from different coffee makers or coffee companies that are providing the product. People have different tastes. People want their coffee to be made in different ways. Sometimes one skim milk. Sometimes one caramel macchiato. Sometimes a cappuccino, or somebody wants just a strong coffee in the morning. Correct? People have options, and people will continue making those options to determine how products are going to be fulfilled to them and how the supply chains need to work. So they're going to continue demanding more and more from us. So we all understand that this has created a lot of change, and the changes that we are observing, and if we look into how yesterday we were focusing on our supply chain, how cost effective was our supply chain, what were the transactional relationships that we had, the product, the economy, the data information, the process, all that comparing to today and where it's going is really different, correct? We need to focus on the costing efficiency. We need to focus on responsiveness. Like I said before, a more demand-driven supply chain. Now we are very focused on building continuous relationships with our buyers. Before, in the past, a transaction really didn't mean much other than we were starting to build those loyalty programs, but we were not able to have a continuous relationship with our buyers. Today, we get immediate information about the products that we like by just searching the web pages of the companies or the products that we like. We get instant marketing material in our mobile devices or by mail or email, and they're really trying to build a much closer relationship with the buyer. They want to understand who we are, what we want, what we like, and where we want our products. And that's why, this has a direct impact in our economy. And in order for us to support all these different demands and how the supply chain is performing, we need the help from machine learning, artificial intelligence, and all other supporting technologies that now are available. Okay, so traditional best practices when we were defining or designing our supply chain in terms of design, plan, buy, move, and sell, correct? But those best practices have really changed dramatically. New distribution models, like we spoke before, the customer engagement, the profile management, the life cycles of our products continue to shrink, like I said before. The information anywhere, the process orchestration, which is super important, and the optimization and the performance overall of that supply chain as we build those networks that are getting closer and closer to the consumer as an objective. So we're extending our KPIs, correct, from the past, from total stock, cost per unit, OTIF, stock option position availability. Now we're moving more into KPIs that are related to direct sales, how is our e-commerce sales, our performance, what is the different last mile delivery capabilities that we have, what is the conversion rate from our competition, or the conversion rate from a customer that used to do more brick and mortar type of buy into the e-commerce, what is the customer life cycle and life value that we have. And we're starting to add new models, like I said before, in terms of pick up in store or ship from store, return to store, and all those different combinations that we have now in the supply chain. So, and it's good to make a quick evaluation of the pre-internet model. Before that, the supply chains really were driven by supply chains and the number of SKUs that we had. That really was generating the revenue for these companies. The volume of data that we used to manage was not that large. It was significant, but not large. It was something that we were able to manage on a monthly basis. So that has changed significantly after the internet model, correct, came on board. And now our supply chains are driven by the SKUs that we manage, the channels that we're using to distribute and fulfill those products. We have duplicate assortments. We have different pricing strategies in some cases, in some industries, and the number of SKU counts either are increasing in some scenarios or decreasing based on the different model and business that you want to implement within your organization. So that is creating more and more data. The data keeps increasing not only on a monthly basis, but in a weekly basis, on a daily basis, and an hourly basis. And the interaction continues to happen more and more. The social media influencers, they're, like I said before, they're chatbots that are starting to understand where we go, the one-on-one campaigns on our products, our interactions, the different loyalty programs, and our emerging technologies or supporting technologies, as I like to call them. So the noise is there. There's a lot of digital noise. There's a lot of noise that we need to manage, but we need to also at the same time be able to control it so we can have a much better result in how we utilize our supply chain assets, how we utilize our assets, how we are able to understand if the type of products that we're managing are the right ones for our customer base, or what are the changes that we need to do. If we're moving more into the demand-driven supply chain, are we in a better position to move the manufacturing plants of those products closer to the consumer? It's not only the last mile delivery, correct? If we talk about the entire supply chain, it's about the three legs of the supply chain, correct? The manufacturing, the processes of the products from the manufacturing plants to the warehouses, and then, of course, the distribution of the products to the end consumer. So it's important to have an orchestration and a good combination of all these processes to support our goal. So the data that we're able to analyze and see is that if you look, the size of the operating models continue to decrease, and also the management of the customer and customer choice and the data that today is available for us in the model is growing significantly. And that's going to continue happening. That's going to continue being the trend. In terms of the physical state, just wanted to add also, last week was our largest user conference, and we were discussing with multiple companies about their strategies in terms of what they're going to do with their physical assets, in terms of stores or other facilities that they own. And you can see that the mentality is not like, oh, well, we're closing stores. And sometimes that closing store statement gets misleaded by people understanding that they're going out of business. No, they're closing stores, but they're transforming those stores into small fulfillment centers to get closer to the consumer. So one of our customers was talking to us and saying, we're going to close 149 different locations in the country, but not because we're in a bad financial position. Is because our model is shifting from a linear, or if you want to say, a brick and mortar approach to more of an e-commerce retailer, and we want to be able to be closer to that. Or a manufacturer that is opting to do omni-channel. Now they're manufacturing these products, and at the same time, once they're completely done, they're managing that product from the facilities locations and closer to the major markets where the products are being consumed. So in this case, I can give you an example of a customer that they use our products to manage beauty products. They manufacture these products before they used to keep these products when they were done in the warehouse, waiting for orders to be released so they can fulfill their customers. Now they're taking a different approach. They're saying, look, we're going to continue having that relationship with our customers, but also now once the product is completed, we're going to move that product closer to the bigger cities. I'm talking about New York, Boston, Chicago, Miami, Atlanta, LA, and other larger markets. So they can now opt to do a different fulfillment processes, and if once an order gets there to them, they don't need to rely on some other e-commerce vendor to be able to fulfill that order. If they have those top items in that region, they will be able to fulfill directly from their own facility. So the data is changing, but the data is also allowing us to understand how we're going to be able to manage the supply chain as we continue progressing in this ongoing change in models, correct? So one thing that I would like to say is that regardless of the data, regardless of all these changes, at the end of the day, we consumers, we only care that if things go in a different directions, we want to make sure that at the end of the day, we get our product, correct? And that's very important. And also, in today's world, we're seeing that we're seeing trends and technologies such as AI, machine learning, and IoT chatbots that are also helping us understand the ecosystem much better. We're starting to understand how supply chains and logistics execution need to deal with bigger trends that are also happening, and the future of our supply chain as it also gets disrupted. But the disruption is not only disruptions that are happening because a company acquiring another company, or it's happening because there are disruptions that are being created by the volatility of our markets, because there are natural disasters that also are making and disrupting our supply chains in different ways, correct? Today we have supply chains that are going to be affected because of Brexit, correct? Or they need to come up with a new model, how they're going to be able to work. They're going to need to build new trades with different countries and reinforce different ways on how the entire supply chain is going to work, right? Um, we're going to need to talk about what's going to happen with other events in the Middle East. So what's going to happen with the two largest economies and the trade wars that they're right now having in terms of how that's going to disrupt our supply chain, correct? So all of us today already know that the next event and the next disruption is really around the corner, and we need to know that the particular details and timing of that event it's going to happen soon. Um, uh, of course, but we need to be able to understand that at the end of the day, we need to look into our supply chains in a way that businesses need to be able to pivot very rapidly to be able to adjust and align their underlying technologies and their deployment models in a way that is easier to do it in a way that is more agile and it also meets today's requirements. And really, that's um, happening because very fast as businesses continue to work and adapt to new requirements. The rate of change is happening at a very fast pace. Disruption in the modern world does not mean that the supply chains have to suffer. I think at the end of the day, we need to believe that, and I think that I am a very strong believer of opinion that if a supply chain needs to reframe and think about these different uncertainties and opportunities, we will be able to respond and have the ability to respond much better to the different changes and disruptions that are happening in the market. So I think we all need to look into the constraints, the IT infrastructure, our business processes, the resources that we have. Do we have the right employees in our organizations? Do we have the right supply chain leaders? Do we have supply chain leaders that understand technology? Do we have employees in our organizations that are very aligned with the new technology trends? Do we have the capability to pivot in case of a disruption? And are we able to analyze the data from our competitors? And are we able to implement machine learning and others that are allowing us to understand where the market and the trends are happening so we can close the performance gap much faster and we can be much better positioned as we continue moving along. Okay? So the agility is important. We need to support and manage with very quality and we need to be able to come up with an ability to adapt is something that is going to happen for all of our supply chain leaders. We need to be able to show the best path to go and be able to pivot quickly. We need to be able to have the flexibility to configure our facilities, our networks. We need to be able to collaborate with our vendors. We need to be able to rearrange the flow of products based on new business opportunities or new business disruptions. We need to be able to monitor our inventory much better. We need to be able to capture and understand where do we see the trends in terms of the next event happening that could potentially affect our supply chain or take advantage of the markets where we have a leadership position and we want to continue pushing more products in that direction. So, one thing that is very important for us is, how we accelerate an innovation, and it's very important for us that we're going to focus on accelerating innovation. We want innovation to be implemented at a fast pace for our customers. We want to expedite enhancements for our customers because as a software provider in the cloud, we need to be able to provide all the different self-service tools for the customers so they can understand the rate of change for the specific industries, for the specific products, markets, and they can also be self-service and be able to move faster in their own needs without much dependency on us or different vendors. And we want to be able to provide a much better experience as so we can increase the customer satisfaction. And the reason why it's very important because last week we were very focused to introduce a new mobile execution platform and built on Oracle's Visual Builder Cloud Services called VBCS that now is available for our WMS system, and is allowing us to give all these different benefits to our customers as they are moving ahead with our technology. Because again, the importance of being able to adapt and be able to pivot and be able to have the right technologies and tools is very important to support their business as they use our technologies. So the next part of the presentation, I want to introduce you to Arun Murugan. He was our Chief Technical Officer at Logfire, and now he's part of our product development team here at Oracle. And we're going to show you a couple of new capabilities that we have with some new mobile platform that we have introduced, and then we will go back to understand how other technologies and supporting technologies are allowing companies to be able to be more flexible and nimble as they move through new challenges. Thank you, Arun.
Thank you, Diego. As Diego explained, our next generation mobile platform is based on Visual Builder Cloud Service. So this tool is actually part of the Oracle Integration Cloud, which is the integration platform that Oracle provides as a cloud service. Now, the reason this is part of this service is that this is a tool that can be used to integrate multiple different cloud services, and that's the reason it's built into this particular feature, this particular application. So what is VBCS? So VBCS is basically a visual tool that developers can use to build mobile applications that run on multiple platforms. It is a very broad and deep development tool that can be used to build extremely rich user interfaces, extremely flexible, and the way it works is basically by creating screens that can then be connected to any backend via REST web services. So what you're seeing here is just a small subset of some of the 250 plus APIs that the WMS Cloud has, and these can be used in order to create the mobile application. It provides a lot of flexibility. You can define complete flowcharts defining what the flow of operations should be, and it gives you a lot of flexibility. Not only that, it gives you some lower level control as well. You can create your own JavaScript. You can customize a lot of code, so it's not very rigid. In addition, it also has an emulator that's built in. It can create applications it can create applications that can run on iOS and Android, and it can be also. So our plan is to publish it in multiple different mechanisms. The first is to publish it via the App Store on iOS and Android, and eventually we will publish it in the OIC marketplace, where these changes, this whole application can be changed by end users. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's allowing us to provide more agility to companies. It's increasing the visibility. We can also expand this technology to, for in this case, provide augmented reality to customers that need to have a much better visibility of the inventory across different areas. So as we improve the adaptability of our supply chain, as we are now looking in terms of how the improvement of supply chain, the systems, the agility to support these new and unexpected events, we need to be ready for that. So I'm going to move closer to our next slide, which is supporting technologies. Today, not only having the flexibility, I'm going to ask if somebody is typing, we can mute the attendees, please. That would be great. So, if in today's supply chain, we have different challenges as we talk today, but we need to be able to have a more data in there in our solutions that can be managed by using supporting technologies like IoT, connecting digital thread. We need to be more intelligent with machine learning, artificial intelligence. We need to be able to interact better with the technology and the different assets that we have by using augmented reality and also being with digital twin. And then also we need to be able to use not only this type of technology as to understand the different trends that we have, but be able to support new trends like blockchain and chatbots that are also being part of the supply chain as well. Correct. So this is very important. And at first, we wanted to focus on how we enable IoT. I think now that we are connected to this physical world, we need to find the ways to analyze real data and real-time connect that data using Internet of Things to allow organizations to optimize how we're going to integrate between the physical world and also how we're going to be able to integrate with backend applications and IT to understand the much better usability of our technologies. So with that, I'm going to just give you guys a quick view of a new model that we're doing right now. This is an example of a customer that is using a deployment in the cloud with thousands of warehouses globally and using our capabilities and automations and getting the high availability. But as I talk in terms of integration and as I talk about emerging technologies, this is a very interesting use case that we were able to demonstrate last week. And for that, I'm going to introduce to my colleague, Kunal Moge. He was our Vice President of Customer Success and Support at Lockfire, and now he's part of our development organization here at Oracle, and he's going to be able to walk you through that new exciting scenario that now we're able to perform.
Thanks, Diego. So, to go along with the theme of innovation and real-time visibility, what we've done is we've been able to give an offering that combines OTM, IoT-FM, and also our WMS Cloud. So we'll walk through this. A quick example of this, and you can see how we'll be able to create appointments within WMS from planned shipments within OTM, and then make updates on those appointments as well. So let's go ahead and get into the scenario. So the way that we've set up the scenario is that we have an order that needs to be shipped from a warehouse in Kansas City to a store in Atlanta. So it's a two-step shipment. The order is sent to WMS Cloud and also to IoT-FM from OTM after the shipment is planned. And then after that, it's ready for execution. So we'll see some of those slides. So the first slide that we're showing is an OTM slide. As you can see, this is a two-stop shipment. And what we'll be concentrating on is the first stop, where we are picking up a load from the Kansas City distribution center. So you can see that the shipment itself has been created in OTM. The second half of the slide on the bottom shows you the related stops. Now, what happens at this point is that, just give us a second.
Some technical issues on the PowerPoint. Just give us a second, and we apologize for the interruption on the demo. Okay, let me restart it, so I apologize for that.
Diego, if you're not able to get it working, I can run it from my end.
I should be able to get it. Thank you for that, and I really apologize for the interruption. Unfortunately, these things happen, and okay. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for the interruption.
Great. So we took a look at the screen. This is the OTM screen. So as soon as the load is planned, and you can see the shipment number is 04901, that same information is communicated to IOTFM. What you're seeing right now is the IOTFM screen, and you can see that that same load 04901 has been planned. It's not been started, of course. And then if you drill down a little bit more into the IOTFM screen, you can see some of the details that are associated with it. Again, we're focusing on the first leg. So if you take a look at the first, on the left side of the slide, you'll see that the destination for Kansas City, we have a planned ETA, arrival ETA of 8:30 a.m. And it's there for pickup. Now, not only does this order and load information go from OTM to IOTFM, but it also comes into WMS Cloud. So you can see that within WMS Cloud, we've created an outbound load. So this is based off of the information that was sent. And you can see that the planned load number is there. We create an internal load as well. You can see the scheduled delivery date of 8:30 a.m. if you remember from the previous screens. So all this information is being communicated real time between all three systems. Along with that, along with creating a load within WMS Cloud, we also create an appointment. Again, with the same information, you can see we've got an appointment number. It's in status not scheduled. And you can see when the planned start date timestamp is, which is 8:30 a.m., which is what we're expecting. As soon as WMS Cloud creates this information, that information is sent back to IOTFM, and you can see the same information there as well. So if everything happens as scheduled, then wonderful. But as we all know, disruptions can happen. Let's say there is a delay in shipment. And then ITFM calculates that the ETA of the shipment has been changed from 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. So IOTFM calculates this. It understands that there's going to be a delay. As you can see from the screen now, the arrival ETA of the shipment in Kansas City is now 11:30 rather than 8:30. So let's see what happens within WMS. Well, in real-time fashion, WMS is also updated with that new appointment time for the delay. As you can see, the plan start time is now 11:30 a.m. Instead of 8:30 a.m. So let's say everything is okay now, and the load is traveling as expected. It's expected to arrive at its new time now at 11:30 a.m. Within IoT FM, you can monitor exactly where that trailer is. This is a screen that will give you that information. And the great thing about IoT FM and the integration that we have with WMS Cloud is that not only can you monitor the truck or the trailer as it's coming to the facility, but you can set up IoT FM so that you can create a geofence around that facility. And as soon as the truck crosses that geofence, you can trigger transactions, and we'll see what kind of transactions they are. So as soon as that trailer crosses the geofence, IoT FM knows this, and because it knows this, it'll start querying WMS Cloud and do a couple of things. It'll look for an open and available dock door, right? And then as soon as it finds the available dock door, it'll start the check-in process. So what happens within WMS Cloud, you can see it, right? Now that the status of the load has been changed to checked in, you can see that it's assigned a dock door of dock door 5, and it's here on time at 11:33. And also, as soon as that happens, as soon as the check-in process happens, if the driver has a IoT FM enabled mobile device, that alert is sent to the driver to tell the driver where to go. So in this case, it's showing the driver that, please proceed to dock 5. So within IoT FM, of course, you have the ability to monitor what's going on. You see various other statistics that are being kept. You can see the status of your current load. And then, of course, as soon as the load is checked out, there's a communication that happens between WMS and IoT FM to confirm the checkout. Now, what happens in the situation where there is no dock door available? So we've seen the situation what happens when there's a good shipment, a delayed shipment, and when the dock door is available for that delayed shipment. But what happens when a dock door is not available? Well, if the dock door is not available, if all those slots are taken, then IoT FM can also query WMS Cloud and see if there are any available yard locations. So if there is an available yard location, then IoT FM can go ahead and start locating or start the process of locating that trailer into a yard location. And then, in addition to that, IoT FM can continue to monitor dock doors as soon as one is available. It can resend a message to WMS Cloud to direct the driver to the dock door. So this is an example of where we did not find an open dock door, and we were able to assign it to a yard location. So with that, we see that we've got these two components, fleet monitoring and yard management, coming this year in 19D. And then we've got a lot of other exciting capabilities when it comes to asset monitoring, MHE monitoring, and connected worker coming in next calendar year. Yeah. Back to you, Diego.
Thanks, Kunal. And I think the importance of this example is to make sure that we go back to the concepts that we were discussing, correct? How we connect the physical world to and how we are able to analyze the need for real-time data to connect all these capabilities using Internet of Things and other applications, because as the warehouses, the fulfillment centers become more and more smarter, I imagine a whole network where you have geofencing capabilities, where you're able to track the information, where you're able to get better business KPIs and report better SEM metrics using data aggregation and event processing, correct? So at the end of the day, we're trying to understand the data that we're seeing, that we're generating across our different products, so we can predict much better, and we are able to move in a much better direction as our products continue to evolve. So as we also understand the anomalies, that is very important, and you know, it's been very important to understand what are the anomalies that we need to learn, what's affecting our supply chain. You know, we spoke about disruptions. Are the anomalies that we're evaluating coming from a disruption that's been created by nature, or it's been created by man-made? At the end of the day, it's a disruption. We need to predict it. We need to understand the future state. We need to be able to take predictive actions so we can recommend the best course of action to identify the root cause. So in that way, we can take better decisions as a business. And at the end of the day, what we want to make sure is that we provide to our customers a much better forecast in terms of how they're going to be able to optimize their operation based on the current and future multidimensional trends that their supply chain is being challenged with. Correct. So what we're seeing is concrete terms. Correct. What we see is happening in the WMS space is in the next 3 to 5 years, we're starting to see how data is going to be, and that's happening today. Correct. How data is turning into shoes. Correct. How we're understanding about our products, and that product and that data information is becoming more used by our consumers. We're starting to see more and more voice assistant applications, and how voice is more pervasive. We're starting to understand how autonomous cars and trucks are going to also be part of our next supply chain generation. We're starting to see the customer loyalty programs. How closer we can become to our customer is more important than ever. We have new generations of employees that we need to attract to make our supply chains much better and more efficient. We need to change the way we work. We need to change the way we understand our users of either a WMS or a transportation management system or any other execution solution or planning solution within our supply chain or forecasting. We need to be able to analyze and predict and our business models much better and be able to adapt to those changes and be able to pivot as much as we can. We need to be able to interact closer with all these applications and the digital world and the digital threat that we're seeing every day. We know more and more automated, more robots and AI is coming to the workforce, but also that means that we need to be able to coexist with them, that we need to understand, like we're seeing right now, multiple pilots with customers where right now robots are coexisting within a supply chain where, a robot in the picking process is following the picker. It's not disrupting, it's adding more capabilities to our workforce and being able to give us more capabilities. So in short, we're seeing a lot of new changes. We're seeing a lot of more cloud-friendly and dependable applications. We're starting to see more autonomous concepts like autonomous database, autonomous warehouses, automated guided vehicles. We're starting to decouple different functional requirements from different systems to be able to couple with other requirements and automated warehouses. So it's really going to continue moving on a very fast pace, and it's no longer now a process where you can wait to react. You either are on an offensive plan and you are training and also engineering your supply chain to win, or you're gonna be in a position where your competition is gonna be able to create a disruption. And we need to be able to, all of us that want to continue pushing supply chain to the next level, we need to be able to work in a way where we're putting all these technologies at the front end of our requirements. So we want to continue driving new revenue and growth for our customers. We want to be able to reduce cost and improve efficiency. We want to improve overall customer experience, and we also want to make sure that we increase innovation and we add more product life cycles so our customers can be more aligned with today's market requirements. So with that being said, I'm going to open that for questions.
Thank you. As Diego said, we have time for some questions, and if you haven't already submitted one, please submit your questions by selecting the Questions tab on the toolbar on the right side of your screen, and then enter your question and click Send. And we'll try to get to as many as we can today. I realize we're running a little late, but I do already have quite a few regarding monitoring your trucks. So the first question is, how are your trailers and trucks monitored live on IoT FM? And is there a hardware like ELD involved? And then the other part to that is, can the driver directly communicate to IoT FM about the check-in status, or is it manual?
So first we need to understand that we are creating applications leveraging our IoT capabilities. We're not focusing providing any sort of hardware or sensors to be able to track trailers or trucks. So as long as the user of that trailer is connected to the Oracle IoT fleet management, we're able to track it, we're able to understand their position, and we're able to manage it and connect it to the rest of the Oracle applications.
Right. And to add to that, the IoT, FM, and WMS are really linked together by the WMS Cloud APIs that we have. So we already have a very extensive set of APIs that exist. And then IoT hooks in utilizing some of our yard management and dock door APIs to do queries and updates. In addition to that, IoT FM subscribes to certain outbound transactions that we have in order to determine when a particular load has been checked out. So it's through that process that IoT FM can manage the updates that are going back and forth.
And we're completely agnostic in terms of what type of sensor or technology, as long as we can connect, as Kunal mentioned, through our APIs and using the IoT fleet management application, we should be fine.
Yeah.
And then do you have any insight into the future of warehouse execution systems, and will we be seeing warehouses incorporating more of them?
Well, that's a great question. And I think to summarize that, we do see more automation. Like I highlighted during the presentation, there's definitely, we're going to see more and more automation in the next 3-5 years. Something that is very important is that the number of disruptions that are happening globally in supply chains are really pushing companies to take a new perspective and to analyze how they're going to be able to minimize some of these constraints, to be able to automate the processes, to be able to operate 24/7. There are, like I said, certain disruptions in different areas, and we want to be able to automate the warehouse as much as we can so we can have a much better outcome in overall.
And then you say a business should be able to pivot and spin up a new installation immediately. And have you actually seen that? And how is that possible?
Yeah, we have seen it. Actually, this is something that we're seeing it every day. And it could be manufacturing companies that now are moving their facilities from different regions of the world because a trade war that is existing and is changing some of the ways of how business was done. Before there were certain benefits of having certain facilities in certain regions of the world. Now companies are trying to understand, look, will I have better will I be able to reduce my costs, have a better outcome, or have a better reach to my customers or suppliers if I'm able to pivot and move. On the retail side, like explained before, companies are saying, look, I used to have a 1 million square feet warehouse in the middle of the country. That was great. That was able to help me to fulfill my 1,000+ stores or 500+ stores. But now my business model has shifted to more of an e-commerce centric business, and I need to refocus the utilization and the assets that I have in my supply chain and convert those brick and mortar stores into new fulfillment centers for e-com orders. So we're seeing that pivot all the time, and we're seeing that at the end of the day, if you have the technology to be able to support that rapid adaptability and be able to move to the next level of where the market is taking you, then you're going to be able to succeed, correct? So we're seeing that every day, and we're seeing how our technologies are able to support that.
And I think this ties into that as well. We'll take this as the last question because we're going over a little bit here, but it says we're still using an on-prem WMS that we implemented back in 2006, and it seems to work just fine, and we're able to leverage it as needed. So what's the benefit of moving to the cloud?
I will have to analyze your business in much deeper view to give you that level of assessment. But just let me give you a couple of points, correct? So as you can see, and we discussed that today, there has been a lot of changes since 2006. New models, new pressures. The world has changed significantly, like I mentioned during the conversation today, during the webinar, sorry. And it's very difficult that a system that was built 10 or more years ago, 16 years ago or more, it will be able to catch up with all the new technology requirements and trends, and also will be able to provide you a clear roadmap, from where we're going, correct? If you have a system from 2006 and you now want to move to a new update or upgrade to the system, you cannot update. You will have to upgrade. It's a rip and replacement process. It's a disruption to your supply chain, and I will believe that if you have that type of system from 2006, it's most likely an on-prem solution, and you will not be able to have all the capabilities that we mentioned before, and you will not be able to have the flexibility to pivot or to reuse some of the assets that you have and reposition them in multiple ways where you can be in line with the new supply chain requirements. So there's a lot of work, and I really recommend you to analyze that very seriously, because it's important that you keep in line with the market and new pressures.
Thank you. That's all the time we have for our questions today. On behalf of ASCM, I'd like to thank our presenters for their time today and all of our attendees for participating in this ASCM vendor webcast. And as a reminder, this presentation will be available on the Oracle website, and all registrants and attendees will automatically receive an email once the recording is available. You can also get additional information, the URL on this slide, oracle.com/SCM, or call 1-800-633-0738. Again, thank you. All content and material included in this edition of the ASCM vendor webcast is the property of ASCM and Oracle and is protected by the United States and international copyright laws. All rights are reserved.